We knew that if we weren't able to stop 5599, that it would be like walking off a cliff in Washington state when it comes to parental rights, because it has only emboldened them. And unfortunately, we also have to look to what's happening in Oregon, what's happening in California when it comes to this issue, because what happens there happens here. And the worst, I would say, even worse than 5599 was a bill being debated in California called AB 957. And AB 957, unfortunately, has passed. And this is the headline from Town Hall. California lawmakers passed bill punishing parents who do not affirm trans children in custody battles. So one of the worst aspects of this particular now law in California is, let's say that you're getting a divorce, you're in some sort of custody dispute, your former significant other agrees with whatever gender identity your child has at that moment in time, and you don't. Well, that can be used against you to decide who your child goes to, who gets custody of your flesh and blood. And you think about, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that someone might be the less fit parent in a custody dispute. There are a lot of legitimate reasons that a court should weigh. Whether that parent, I don't know, has a 7-year-old who wants to identify as a gender other than the one they were born at, and whether that parent agrees with that, shouldn't be anywhere on the list. Shouldn't even be brought in a courtroom, shouldn't be considered by a judge, shouldn't even be a fleeting thought of something that could be used to take a child away from that parent. And I remember, because we talked about this on the show when it came up, it was California State Assemblywoman Lori Wilson. So this clip I'm going to play you is from June of 2023. We played it on the show back then when this debate first really got attention. And she has a trans child, so it's really personal to her. But here's the clip we played back when this was being discussed.
So this particular bill adds the very important factor that affirming a child's gender identity is in their best interest, which is what your question is about. Why does it actually say that in an affirmative way? And it really is because if you have a 7-year-old who's talking about having a potential to say, being able to articulate that they believe that they are not the same gender as they are biologically, then it should be affirmed. And through care, it should be determined. And that's what we did with our own child. And that would give ability for a parent who wasn't sure to affirm and get their child the care that they need to make that, so they can begin to articulate that determination. But by saying and rejecting it in wholesale, then you're essentially rejecting your child. And that is not in the best interest of a child. We should be affirming our children in every possible way.
We should be affirming our children in every possible way. And I'm not the one who came up with some extreme example of, oh, what if a 7-year-old wants to identify as a different gender? That was her. That was the assemblywoman who was pushing it. We should be affirming our child in every possible way. And I don't mean to be dismissive of people who are really going through a gender identity crisis in their lives, but if you have a child who comes to you and says, I want to be a pretty, pretty princess, or I'm a dragon, or I'm an astronaut, do you say, yeah, you are, and ship them off into space on the next space shuttle? No. Because children are children. And the idea that, again, in the words of that assemblywoman, that you could have a 7-year-old who says, I want to be a boy, born a girl, I want to be a boy. Let's say your ex-wife, your ex-spouse says, yeah, I'm cool with that. And you're like, no, I'm not. That could be a reason to take your child away from you, to give full custody to another parent. You guys, this is crazy stuff. This isn't political. This shouldn't be partisan. That's just insane. And that happened in California. And if you think that will not happen here, I have news for you. I wouldn't be surprised if that bill is being drafted right now, because they got away with 5599. The media let them get away with 5599. The media, remember the headlines we read you? Where the media was fact-checking opposition to 5599. Fact-checking using Democratic political talking points. They hadn't even read the bill, it seemed. And we said time and time again, and I know none of you are to blame for this. I know none of you supported 5599. By none, I mean, I'm assuming most, based on your comments during the time that we covered it. But this is where the reasonable middle has to wake up. We have to find a way to get more people who are dug into their trenches to really look at these things without the political goggles on. And if we can't do that, I'm so worried about the state because, again, this stuff is common sense. How much of this have we talked about today? I mean, the fact that you've got, law enforcement officials saying, hey, we've got all this stuff happening in these juvenile detention facilities. The governor's office, the attorney general say, no big deal. And then they have a big bust at the juvenile detention facility that they wrote to them about. I mean, when you talk about all the stories involving Bob Ferguson that we've discussed, the King County Metro store, that's just common sense. We're told secondhand smoke kills. Yet you're saying it's fine to be riding on a bus where 100% of air samples contain methamphetamine? We're supposed to believe that makes any sense? And now you've got this story. I mean, having a 7-year-old, again, in the words of that California Assemblywoman, dictate what gender that he or she is going to be, and then use that against an adult, a parent who's supposed to look out for the well-being of that child when it comes to whether they get custody? Come on, guys, that's not political. That doesn't make any sense. But that's the direction Washington State is heading, because that's the direction Oregon's heading, because that's the direction that California is heading. And that is scary, scary stuff. And all we can promise is that we'll be all over it when it happens, when we get news that something else absolutely dangerous and destructive is going to be proposed. That's all we can do, right? We can try to bring attention to it. We can try to grow this mission and this movement with the help of all of you. And we can try to just wake people up. I mean, that's all we can do, right?